I'm not a typical 22-year-old. I just want to go to Costco and like maybe the movie theater. You know, that's what I really want. I want to go to Costco. I want to go to the movie theater. I want to go to the gym, and that's it. Like you won't see me at a bar. It's okay. Like I'm very simple in that sense.
You're a particular 22-year-old who has her own desires in this world.
I'm basically a mom of like 4 with no children. I mean, I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I'm operating on a low immunity. So I haven't like gotten in my car and like gone to the grocery store. Like that is just something that I miss terribly. But I will say, I mean, there are aspects of this that can be enjoyed. Like the family time is wonderful. My sister goes to Boston University, so she's home from college, like basically until they close the Chamber of Secrets, we've been saying, you know, and they open the school up again. So it's honestly special to have this time with her that we wouldn't have otherwise had as a family, which is really lovely. So yeah, definitely having her here has been great because it's nice to have like, you know, there are parents, my family's all like very close, like very involved in each other's lives, but it's nice to like, you know, have my sister here.
Nice.
So my sister and I, like, we are obsessed with movies. Like we grew up watching movies and TV, not just as entertainment, but we realized in later years as just kind of an obsessive study of movies.
Well, what are some of your favorite movies? Is that such a hard
thing? It is a hard question, but I do have a top 5 and I will list them in order. So number 1 would be Avengers Endgame is my all-time favorite movie. And let me explain why. I know it seems uncultured, but it's not. Here's the thing. Marvel, and I'm going to start crying if I talk about it too much, but Marvel created 22 films that were completely intertwined in 11 years. And that the first Iron Man came out in May 2008, which I was 10. Yeah, I was 10 when that movie first came out. And the last one came out my senior year of college. So like to have those movies as like such a through line of my development, like as a kid, I mean, I don't think I will ever see another movie that had as much like build up and meaning and like the close of a book than Avengers Endgame did. Because I mean, like all the kids in my generation, especially the ones who were obsessed with it. And I'm not the Marvel girl that goes to Comic-Con, but like if we talk about Tony Stark too long, like I will start to cry. But yeah, I mean, Avengers Endgame is my favorite movie.
Wow. So it's like a bookending of like this enormous part of your life.
Oh, exactly. Because I mean, you know, you're growing up and all these things are happening to you. And it's like every few months a Marvel movie comes out and the whole family goes to see it. It's like a big deal. Like the tags each inform the next movie. So it was something that, you know, and it's not just like, they're not movies about fighting. Like why people keep caring about it is because of the relationships and there's such humor there.
And that's true for me because I am not going to just choose any action film. I love them, and I always say like, and that's sort of the great equalizer between me and Matt too, is that that's the kind of movie that we will both care about. But because he also is not a guy who will just accept pure action either. He's like, if I'm not compelled by the story, I'm out. Like, you know,
you're not there for the fight sequences. You're there for the relationships between these characters. The other 4, so it goes Avengers Endgame's number 2 would be Good Will Hunting. It's my second favorite movie.
Yes.
Number 3, Back to the Future. And Back to the Future is one of my favorites because my parents actually met at Universal Studios. They were working there in their early 20s. My mom was a tour guide of the tram and my dad was the driver. So that's how they met. So like Universal movies were super like inspiring to me as a kid and in my career as an actor because my mom, you know, worked at Universal and she worked her way up and then she was in charge of hiring the tour guides. And so I would go when I was like really young, she'd pick me up from preschool and I'd go to her office that like, you know, overlooked the park and I'd play with like Jurassic Park figurines. And then she'd take me on a ride or two before we left and we'd drive home through the back lot and like past a DeLorean and, you know, through the clock tower square. So all of that, like growing up and seeing that, it kind of takes me back to those early places. And I love Back to the Future. I think it's a great movie. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just good every time. I love it. So Avengers Endgame, Good Will Hunting, Back to the Future. La La Land is the 4th. I just love La La Land. And the 5th is a movie called Love, Rosie. It's a British romantic comedy with Lily Collins and Sam Claflin. You can actually, I think it's on Netflix. I'm like plugging it. You can watch it on Netflix. It's really sweet. It's about these best friends. They meet when they're 5, boy and a girl, and it's kind of a romance in the sense that they always keep kind of missing each other in their life. One person is attached, one person isn't, one person likes them while the other person doesn't. So it's a romantic comedy. So it ends happy, but you know, it's kind of a motley crew of movies. But I love movies so much.
Oh. Now, did you always love musicals too?
I would say like now I'm not as much of a musical theater person. Like, I grew up, you know, on The Sound of Music, on My Fair Lady. Summer Stock is my favorite movie musical. If you know that one. Have you seen Summer Stock?
Wait, have I?
Oh my God, Jordan, it's the best. It's a movie musical with Judy Garland and Gene Kelly. It's the best. Judy Garland is a farmer, which is hilarious. And Gene Kelly is the boyfriend of her actress sister. And so they come up to the farm because they lost their rehearsal space in New York City to rehearse on the farm. But the company has to like help with the farming and like milking the cows and everything. And so eventually the sister leaves and Gene Kelly and Judy Garland has to step into the show because her sister was like, see ya, I'm going to the big city. So Judy Garland, who's never performed in her life, has to like learn how to be a song and dance woman. It's beautiful. The music is great. And it's just one of those like secret, you know, 50s, 60s movie musicals that not everybody knows about. But if you do know about it, you love it and you're obsessed with it. And it's just... You guys have to watch it.
Your Toronto family needs to watch Summer Stock like now.
Yes, you like tonight. That's what you guys are doing, and like call me immediately after. It's beautiful. But yeah, so musical theater. I mean, I grew up watching those movies, and I was always singing. I was raised on Beatles. My parents are obsessed with the Beatles. My mom actually thought I was tone deaf for a second when I was a kid because I was singing Beatles in the back seat, and she was like, "Why is she not singing the melody right?" But she realized later that I was actually singing the harmony.
Amazing.
And so that was interesting. So I was always just like, you could never shut me up singing. And then when I was in elementary school, there was a variety show. I went to Roosevelt. That was a really big deal. My mom, who had done, you know, the tour guide showcases for years, had directed them and put them together and did tons of theater in college and was a great actress herself, took that part of volunteering over. She became the director of the variety show and kind of made it into this really incredible show, you know, where each show had a theme. The way that she pieced it together was super brilliant and seamless, because before it was very much like, and our next act is, and our next act is, but my mom like cut time out. She cut the air out and she made it like almost like a SNL Carol Burnett show, but
amazing.
That was great for kids and showed them off, but also was a little bit more enjoyable for the parents and the grandparents to have to sit through. So that was a really big thing for me. So I was in all of those shows. I did all of that. And yeah, my parents were totally influential in all of that because my dad was a transportation coordinator for movies and television. So I grew up going to set with him, and like I did all the shows with my mom, and all of my parents' friends are casting directors or in the industry. So I was surrounded by this community of artists. Like I didn't know anybody growing up as a kid who wasn't somewhat involved in entertainment or wasn't like driving onto a lot every day for work.
Oh, so cool.
And musicals and musical theater were great because I loved performing and I loved singing. Like singing was my first great love above anything else, above acting. And so then I started doing, when I went to middle school, I did the choirs. And then I did choir at Burroughs. I was in the advanced women's choir my freshman year. And then the advanced mixed choir Powerhouse for the following 3 years. After that, I did every single drama production in high school and every single musical. I think I was the only person in my class to have done every single drama production and musical from my freshman year to my senior year.
That's so cool. Do you have a favorite?
Do I have a favorite? Legally Blonde, my senior year, was probably my favorite.
Oh.
It was such a marathon. I was barely ever off stage. It was just almost a test for me to see if like I felt like I could personally do this. But up until my sophomore year of high school, like I wanted to, you know, be a doctor or go to law school or be a journalism major, because the logical side of my brain was like, if you go to school for, you know, theater or musical theater and it doesn't work out, like what are you left with, you know? But my junior year of high school, we did Guys and Dolls, and I was cast as Sarah Brown. And that was my first time as a lead of a musical, not just a play, but just a lead of a musical.
Yes.
And after that, I was like, oh, okay. So like we're auditioning for theater school.
So I'm doing this.
That's what's happening. So yeah, and then my senior year was really crazy. For all the musical theater schools, and I know you know this, but your viewers might not. So seniors have to apply to schools normally, like anyone would, even if you're pursuing musical theater. You have to do all the tests, all the long applications, all the essays of, why you're special, etc.
Yes.
And then what happens also in that fall is you have to send out self-tapes, audition tapes to all the colleges, basically saying, asking for an invitation to audition in person. Yes. So I sent out all my self-tapes to all different schools, and I got yeses from all of them to audition. So in the spring, when people are getting their acceptances, the musical theater and the acting hopeful kids are auditioning for schools as opposed to like waiting for their letters. It's like that's when crunch time really begins.
Right.
So I auditioned for a bunch of schools, and ultimately I chose Ithaca College as the school that I would spend the next 4 years at. And I was choosing between Ithaca and a few other schools, but when I visited Ithaca, and they also gave me a scholarship, which was a helpful push.
Yeah.
When I visited Ithaca, there's just something about like when you step onto the campus that is yours. They always say that it's a feeling, that wedding dress feeling where you're like, this is the one. It is really like that with the college campus. Like you like stepping onto there, like you do get a feeling of like, this is where I'm going to be the next 4 years. And what really clinched it for me, because I went with my dad my senior year in April, like 3 weeks before I had to decide. I was sad leaving. And I was like, oh, I'm sad to leave this place. And I didn't buy a college sweatshirt from any school. I was like, if you buy the sweatshirt, like that's bad mojo. That means you're going to commit or you're not going to get in. And I did buy the sweatshirt from Ithaca that weekend.
Oh.
This is it. We spent a weekend. We saw the classes. I love the professors. I love the campus. And it is a small town, which by the end of 4 years felt a little isolating, but it's temporary. Like I was there for the training, and it was wonderful. So yeah, I really made the right decision. And then I moved 3,000 miles away from my mom and dad.
Oh my God.
Sad. Yeah.
Have you applied anywhere in California, or were you just?
I didn't at all. I think I applied to UCLA, but I remember we were driving to the audition for UCLA, and my mom was like, it's like 15 minutes away from home. You can totally come home and do your laundry. And I was like,
you were like, actually, that
was like, actually, in retrospect, by my sophomore year of college, I was like, mommy, but in that moment, when you're a senior in high school and
that was not a plus in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it was one of the reasons I chose ultimately to come back after college too, is I think I realized the value of California to me. And I'm energized here. This is such a life force to me. And I didn't really get that extra sunshine, if you will, when I was in New York. I feel more inspired as an artist here than I do in New York. So
I believe it.
The weather, it takes a toll on you. It really does, especially when you didn't grow up in that environment at all.
I
mean,
bet.
The first year weather-wise, it was like, oh, like white stuff, snow, this is amazing. And then by sophomore year, you're just like, another day,
I know. I bet. There's some, magic of all like playing in the snow, and the one year that
Christmas snow before Christmas, beautiful. But once it hits January and there's no January,
not pretty.
I'm just like, what are we doing here?
So was it obvious to you that after college you were going to come back here, or was that?
No, it wasn't at all. So just a quick little college thing. So the acting majors in the MTs, musical theater, they have the same acting training. So you're going through all of the voice and movement classes, voice and speech classes, and acting classes together, intertwined. So in one class, there might be 6 acting majors and 4 MTs, so we're completely mixed in terms of our acting training, which is great. But the musical theater majors then have the requirement of doing all the stuff at the music school. So voice lessons, piano lessons, music theory, your rep class with the rest of your vocal studio, all the people that have the same teacher as you. It's like a master class each week. And then all the dance requirements as well. So musical theater majors are basically double majors in acting and vocal performance with a minor in dance. That's kind of how the major is designed. And then junior year, what happens at Ithaca is the acting majors go to London in the fall, and the musical theater majors go to London in the spring. So we study abroad, but it's really hard because you don't get to see your friends in the other majors for a full year, which is really tricky. So I, as a musical theater major, I went in the spring and I was closer to the acting majors and I didn't see any of them until the following fall.
Oh my gosh, you don't go for a couple of weeks in the spring. You go
January to May. January to May. Yeah, we actually have a branch of our campus in Kensington, and you go and you study there for 5 months.
That's very cool.
Which is a very cool experience. And then
but you were really literally then a year without your other acting friends.
Oh, yeah. I mean, socially, London was such a tricky time for me because all of my close friends were acting majors or kids at the music school. And my best friend actually was a law student at Cornell, a political science major that we met doing a show at Cornell where she was the stage manager and she was just like my person in college. And so I was kind of like fish out of water in London because I wasn't, with my group. I wasn't with people that were as much my people, still classmates that I loved and enjoyed, but so that was a little bit rough. But London is such a beautiful city, so rich in culture. Actually, one of our classes every Wednesday, we would take a tour of London. We had this amazing tour guide. His name was Simon Whitehouse, and every week he'd take us through a specific region or we went through the Royal Opera House, all through it, through the globe one day. So he was an amazing tour guide. So that was part of the curriculum to literally see the city that we were living in. So it was a really cool experience. I can now, pretentiously drop into conversations back when I was abroad, everyone says that. And then senior year at Ithaca is really important because second semester we have our showcase, which all the, Michigan, I'm sure did that
yes.
when we were there. And you go to New York City and it's basically kind of your first industry, for a lot of people, first industry exposure. It's your first date with the industry. People come to see you. It's an invited audience of casting directors, industry people, agents, etc.
Right.
And so showcase was a really awesome experience for me. I got a lot of really, really great auditions and meetings out of it. And that's actually how I found my agent. Great. So I met with their office in New York in March when I was there for showcase, the week after my showcase. And then that following summer, after I graduated, I came home. I was only going to be home for 2 months. But then the agency that I signed me with their LA office, even though I was going to be bi-coastal, they signed me mid-July. And then they said, why don't you stay an extra month? Let's get the ball rolling here. And then you can move to New York. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll stay another month. And then after that month was up, they were like, why don't you stay another month? Things are going well. Let's just prolong a little bit. And I was like, okay. And then by the end of that month, it was kind of obvious that this was going to be an indefinite, let's stay another month, let's stay another month, let's stay another month. Yeah. And it just ended up being the right decision to stay here. Because I was talking with my agent about it, and I was this acting teacher that I go to in LA. I love him. I was just enjoying the class so much, and I just loved this place and the work that I was doing. And I called my mom. I was, driving home on Mulholland, past the Hollywood sign, and I started crying, and I was like, Mom, what if I stayed? Could I do that? Could I stay here? And started crying, and she's like, yes, of course, we think it's a great idea. If you need to fly to New York for an audition, it's way cheaper. You can do that. It just makes more sense for you to be here, at least for 6 months to a year. And I was like, it was such a clarity moment, because it wasn't something that I felt like I'd even considered. You go to school for musical theater, you move to New York. That is what you're supposed to do, even if you want to pursue film, which in the back of my mind had always been my number one, since I was a kid, obsessively watching movies.
Right.
So to reach that point where I was like, wait a second, I don't have to follow the herd here.
You just made me cry there, because I really think that we forget, because, it's interesting. Your story of staying in California, made me cry. But I think Broadway, I always assumed, well, duh, that's supposed to be the dream. And I'm like, oh, my thing wasn't necessarily just the path of Broadway. It was doing it my way. And
right, exactly. And I think one of the hardest things about musical theater education is it's hard for schools to, encourage, individuality at the same time, not producing a mold, right? Because that mold is somebody who can sing all the songs, just like Sutton Foster, do the scenes genuine, but big enough to reach the back row, and also kick their face. And like, there are some people who are like that. God bless them.
There are.
Never will be, never have been, but it is easy to feel like you are not good as a performer if you can't do all of those things.
And there are a lot of expectations that we put on ourselves and that we have internalized.
Exactly. So, you know, it was like I had a casting, there was a casting director from Binder Casting who came to Ithaca the fall of my senior year and like did a master class with all of us. And I sang, and he was like, wow, you have a really great pop voice, but I don't think musical theater is right for you. And he said that in front of my whole class. And like deep down, I knew that, but I was like, I'm, you know, there is going to be that one show, that niche show that like needs a pop, like country grunge girl like me, like it'll work out. Absolutely. But it's like to wait for that one opportunity when there are people who can do 90% of it right now felt so silly to me. And I did tons of student films while I was in college, and they were always just ready. It just felt right to me, because one of my biggest problems as a theater actor was to be big, right? To be bigger than a conversation that you and I are having, just so this feels just as organic, but to the people in the balcony. That was always really, really hard for me to do. But then, you know, and in my classes, like there was always, you know, project, like be bigger. And then we all took in acting for the camera classes, and the comment to everybody else except me was dial it back. I was like,
you were like, trust me, I got this.
I was like, this is where I feel like I fit more. And I just felt like I fit in that world more, because especially with musical theater too, I always felt like one of the best actors in the room, but not the voice that they wanted to hear. And it just felt like, because I didn't have that, you know, Sutton Foster, like Sherry Renee Scott, like Nixie belt, that was equated to me subtly, I felt like, from my peers and teachers, as that I wasn't a good singer. And even though that's like probably not the intention, it just, to me, it felt like I was a singer. But I like came to realize over those 4 years that you're not a good singer. You're just not a musical theater singer, like at all. Like, and I even just had to stop thinking like I am not, you know, like, oh, I'm a pop musical theater. It's like, no, you're just not a musical theater singer. Like, you're the girl with the guitar, and like that's who you are, and that's totally fine, because there's room for that.
There is room for that, but it's sad to me that there's too many different things on Broadway and in the world and in theater, that there shouldn't be that message, though, that there is a musical theater sound, because that's limiting to how many different things people want to write too.
It is, yeah. But even if the music is, you know, transformative and different, like it feels like the same voice, or like the same.
There's an expectation that there is a sound you can make,
the same tone quality. And I was like, oh my God, like after 12 years of studying voice, I just don't think that's in the cards for me. And that's
kind of freeing.
It definitely was freeing, because I was like, oh, like I can be an actor first. That's fine, and not, you know, give up on my singing at all. Like, I love to sing, and I do love my voice, but not stress out about my voice not doing things that other people's could do naturally, because there are things that I can do naturally that other people can't. And like songwriting was a huge thing for me my senior year. I'd always like grown up writing songs and stuff, but I really reconnected with writing my own music again the summer before my senior year. So that to me also was like, it's such a, like an old friend to like pick up a guitar, like go back to your notebook and write something. So that to me, I was like, I can be an artist in college without a deadline, like without having to do this for faculty. Like there's a performance like on Friday at 4 p.m. that you have to be ready for. And I think that's also such a hard thing for people in school, be it like high school choir programs. It's like, how do we find a way to make our art for us again? Because there's such a level of stress that comes upon it, like administratively, you know,
right. As soon as it becomes an assignment and
a task as opposed to enjoyment. And it always like has to be rooted in joy. And like my freshman year of college, I was so worried about like everybody thinking I was good and like making sure everything was done like on time, that the work was not authentic because of that. Like you really have to not care. I was actually doing a self-tape like in my living room with my sister the other day, and I was being super robotic with my slate. I was like, hi, I'm Robin Mazer. And my sister's like, you're being so stiff. She's like, you literally need to say to yourself, like, acting's for losers, like, this is dumb, and then do your slate. And so I was like, acting's for losers, this is stupid, whatever. And then like I did my slate. Like you just have to like shake off. Like it's so hard even now to like sometimes like you feel the old habit of like people need to like me, like creeping back into you. And I mean every performer deals with that, but you know, it's,
I mean,
controlling those moments.
I still have therapy over the phone, and on Tuesday, this was like the entire hour was like, I feel old feelings trickling in, the old pressure to be something. I was like, I'm literally putting out a YouTube show that's completely and totally controlled by me, and I'm still going, do I sound right for the song that I picked that I'm like, wait a minute.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable how we can do that to ourselves.
Completely.
I'm still treating things like assignments when I'm like, who is assigning you this again, Jordan?
Like, wait a second. I'm an adult. I'm a mom of 3.
I'm an adult who's a mom of 3 who in this case is doing something that's entirely created by me, entirely controlled by me. And it's astounding that I can still somehow make it an assignment in my head sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so like I had to find ways in college to get rid of the assignment. Because I mean, like when you're a BFA, I mean, you and Matt know this.
It is an assignment.
It is an assignment, and you're so busy all the time. Like you're in school from like 8 to 5, maybe take an hour for the gym, rehearsals from 6 to like whenever at night. And then, oh shoot, you have scene study at 8 a.m. tomorrow, and you have to work with your scene partner. When's the only time we're available? After rehearsal, 11 p.m.
Right.
And then you rehearse for 2 hours. And of course you can't go to sleep when you're home because like you're still shaking off that character or adrenaline or whatever. So here you are 2 hours into like season 4 of Sex and the City that you've watched 1,000 times, like eating smart pop like in your bed, and you're like still not calmed down. So you're tired all the time. And, you know, because you have so many different types of performance going on, it's, you know, you see another thing, it's like, oh shoot, that scene is due on Friday, as opposed to like, here's an opportunity for me to hone my skills. It starts to feel like that without even.
Oh shoot! Instead of oh yay.
Shoot! Wait, we have to sing that tomorrow. Oh, crap, I have a voice lesson. I have a voice lesson in 30 minutes. I totally didn't warm up. Like it becomes
everything just becomes
hard to try to stay organized. Like that is inevitable. Like whether you're in high school, in college, in real life,
right? And my middle schooler Clementine, who she's coached. I'm telling my viewers that Robin has coached Clementine, and. Who should be performing in Footloose, which you helped her prepare for to get
got the role that we worked on.
And she's now getting ready to sing songs to get into the next choir next year. And I don't know, Matt overheard me apparently say something good the other day that I didn't even realize I said to her. Just get into the song, don't get into the choir. And he was like, yes, listen to mommy. I'm like, I said that?
Yes.
He's like,
really?
yes.
Exactly.
And I'm like, okay, I clearly need to take my own advice. And but it's always easier to say to someone else. But I was like able to say, like, when I had perspective on her and it wasn't my life, I was able to be like, wait, I know that when you're actually doing something, there's joy. I know I've seen you, I've witnessed that, like, there's joy in the actual doing, but you do have to kind of sometimes get over the, like, all the stuff that just in your head.
And give yourself permission to stop watching yourself and just go.
I know, and I've heard you say that so perfectly to all the girls when you coach them for a performance or for an audition. I've heard you say it too, and it's so true, and it's just something we have to remind ourselves about too.
It's easier said than done. And I think what I found, especially for your viewers to know, my survival jobs as an actor include, I teach voice to a lot of the kids in the community privately, which is super great because I grew up here and, you know, people kind of grew up with me doing art stuff over there. So, and I went to school for it. So there is a name association with my credentials, which is great.
But you know exactly what they're doing.
Right, exactly. Because I didn't just go to school for musical theater and I'm working professionally now. It's like I specifically went through these like very specific programs that all these kids are desperately trying to get into.
Yeah.
It matters so much. Like I feel like everything matters so much wherever you are in the present.
Very
But it
true.
matters so much. Like when I was in high school, it was like getting that next solo was like, if I don't get that, I won't be happy. And like in college, like getting that role, if I don't get that, like I won't be happy. I mean, in retrospect, it's like no one cares that I played Violet and Violet my senior year in college, which like for a year leading up to that show, I was like, thank you. But I was like, if I don't get that show, like if I don't leave here like having had like my time, like that is gonna just suck. But like it really, it doesn't matter. Like
it doesn't matter the same way we think it does then.
No,
or it matters for different reasons. Like when I wanted to be a Lizzie and Baby, it's because I wanted to sing Story Goes On, because I wanted to belt my little song, right? But as I look back at it now, I realize that show is so important to me, because I also like always someone who wanted to be a mom, and Baby is so significant to me in so many levels. And but at the time, let's be honest, I just wanted to get the part I wanted. I mean, I just wanted to say,
and like for me. Yeah. And like for me, Violet, it was just like, for me, it wasn't, I mean, I say that like it was about like getting your moment, because everyone wants their moment in the school that they are at before they leave. But like for me, like that specific story, I was like, it will kill me if I see someone other than me do it. Like it will, like I like those words, like if I like saw those words coming out of someone else's mouth, it was like that was something I found out what the musical was going to be like a year beforehand, and like I invested so much time and emotion into it. It feels like your baby. Like you want to watch this thing grow up in your own arms.
You must have gone into that room saying, I'm going to show you why it's me. Like you must have.
Oh, I was listening to the Rocky theme outside the audition door during callbacks, and I was like,
this is mine.
I took them off and I went in.
Those moments, I know too, that I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to bring her back. That one who walked in and was like, I'm not leaving this room until you understand that this is my part.
Right. Exactly. All you can do is the work that you bring into the room for an audition or for whatever. And then it's out of your hands completely.
You're right.
You cannot get cast in something as an adult because you look like the director's ex-wife. Like you just don't know.
Right. I know.
And it's hard in these programs because I mean, everybody does fall victim to, you know, the comparison demon. But what's great about growing up and doing it is you go into an audition, you leave. There's not someone in the waiting room who's going to be like, oh, so Robin didn't get the blah, blah, blah. Robin. Like there's none of that. You walk out and you get another email from your agent that you have something the following Tuesday. So it's like, oh, so this one's done and now I'm working on this one. My goal is to work as an actor in any capacity. And that's what I train for. I mean, like people who are like, my dream is to win a Tony. My dream is to win an Oscar.
That was just never you.
Yeah, no, I think the goal is like, my job is to be an actor and it will pay for a house and for my like children's college educations. Like that, I think is the goal of being a performer, like sustainability in your career. And so I was like, you know, there will still be New York musical stuff for me to do. My goal was never to be on Broadway. And I just felt like there was more opportunity for jobs in LA because there's just more jobs. Yeah. I mean, one of my advisors like, well, you know, there's, 50 shows filming in New York. And I'm like, yeah, but there's like hundreds of thousands like, shooting in Los Angeles. Well, and if I need to fly out to New York, I will, hopefully not now. But here. And it just ended up being the right decision because I've had like tons and tons of auditions in the last like 8 months, and only one of them was New York.
Wow.
And I didn't even have to go there. Only one of them was New York, and actually a second one, it was actually a callback for Dear Evan Hansen, but even so, they saw me at Telsey in LA.
Wow.
So I was like that. I'm still being submitted as if I'm a New York local, but most of the stuff, like 95%.
You don't even have to go there.
Yeah, and 95% of the jobs are coming up like strictly LA. So it definitely was the right decision. Also my happiness, which I never really like put too much thought into until I graduated. I was like, I'll go where the work is. Like, even if it's Iowa, here we come.
Right.
But I'm definitely just a happier person here.
Well, that matters.
It does. It makes your work a lot better and a lot more fun. If it's not fun, then why are you doing it? Like, it's something that you enjoy. If you don't like soccer, play baseball. Like it's the same. Like you're just wasting fun time. Yeah, this was so fun. Thank you for asking me to do this.
I love this more than anything. Honestly, this is me realizing I just love talking to people, hearing their stories. There's just kind of nothing better to me. So
it's so fun to realize that like as an artist, like in struggles, like you're not special in that sense. It's like,
yeah, that's not the way you want to be special, is struggling.
No, it's like everybody, feels, everybody doubts themselves. I mean,
yes.
Back to the Future's Michael J. Fox was like selling all of his possessions and then got for Back to the Future and Family Ties, like basically within the same time.
Absolutely true. Yeah. I love it. Well, you're so awesome. Thank you so much.
Anytime. This was so fun.
Hang in there. Hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person and give a real hug someday soon.
I know. Bye, you guys. Say hi to everyone for me.
Bye.